Hey everyone, I'm Will.
And I'm Caleb.
Welcome to the Retrek Review Podcast, a podcast where we talk about every single episode of Star Trek chronologically. But here's the best part. Caleb hasn't seen a single episode.
What is Star Trek? Is it like Star Wars? I've seen Star Wars.
So don't click off this video, because if you do, you won't see Caleb's unique view of what the episode we're about to watch is.
I hated it.
You heard it here. Computer, begin program.
Increase to full power!
Gives me the creeps. I feel like something's watching us.
Savick, you go right on quoting regulations.
Hello, computer.
I knew I would.
You betrayed your uniform!
Target their cargo hold. Time to take out the garbage.
Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data?
I beg your pardon, sir.
Inspires to be better than I
Come on, it's gonna be fun.
5 years in space. God help me.
This is the best day of my life!
A phaser? You didn't use it? Swords are fun.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Welcome back to another Retrek Review, where each week we talk about Star Trek. And this week, we're talking about episode 26 of Star Trek The Next Generation's first season, and that episode is entitled The Neutral Zone. It originally aired May 16th, 1988. It was a teleplay by Maurice Hurley, who had also done a teleplay of Hide and Q, Data Lore, the Binar episode, Heart of Glory, and The Arsenal of Freedom. It was a story by Deborah McIntyre and Mona Clee. It was directed by James L. Conway, and he had also directed Justice. The synopsis for The Neutral Zone is, after rescuing 3 ancient humans from cryogenic stasis, the Enterprise D is ordered to the Romulan Neutral Zone on an important mission. We had guest appearances for this episode. We had Mark Alimo as T-Bach, Anthony James as T, Leon Rippey as LQ Sonny Clemens, Gracie Harrison as Claire Raymond, and Peter Mark Richmond as Ralph Offenhouse. Mark Alimo, who played T-Bach, also played Badar NDD. He was one of the dog characters from Lonely Among Us, I think was the name of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the introduction of the episode, but before we move on to supporters of the channel, let's go over to Caleb and ask Caleb what he thought of the episode.
I don't know. It's fine. It doesn't do anything special for a season finale, but this is also the time period where like season finales aren't supposed to get you excited for the next season either. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like yes and no. There's a lot of reasoning for it, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I just think in our time period, cliffhangers are like such a big part of like a season finale. I mean, the Romulans being back is a big deal, I guess, because because it is, I guess. It's one of those things where the Romulans were like bad, and then they were working with the Federation that we saw in the movie, and then then now this is like, oh, we haven't heard from them in 50 years. They could be bad, and now they're like, hey, so we had other stuff going on, and now we're back. We're back forever, and it's like, okay. And I'm like, cool. So I don't really care, but I know like Romulans are like a big deal. It's been like a consistent thing, but I just feel like because Klingons are like fine now, It's like they need another bad alien guys.
Yep.
So now you have the Romulans in the neutral zone. Well, it's just fine. The frozen people is an interesting concept, but
It is.
that could have been its own episode. I don't like when they blend these like really important things with these really like interesting storylines just for filler. It just feels like a cop out. Like, oh, so these people don't understand how the future works, so they're gonna run amok on the ship while like the ship is doing really important stuff. Like basically trying to stop a future war.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, like did we really need
No,
that extra?
not at all. I think going forward, like an episode like this would be the Romulan thing would be much more heavy. They would be play a lot more into it. And then like the B storyline would be Worf is in the holodeck like training for a tournament. And like that would be it. So they would do all of the like Romulan stuff and it would be really heavy on that. And then they would cut to Worf like in the holodeck fighting and like failing. And then at the very end, he would succeed. Like they wouldn't really focus on it. They might even not even have a B thing. It might just be a straight like main story if they were going to split it up. Depends on what they're going to do in the episode.
I feel like in season one we've had a lot of episodes where the B storyline is more interesting than the A storyline.
Sometimes, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like that's not good.
no,
That's not good. I'm gonna give it just a regular old Roddenberry
perfect.
because I don't really care.
No, to be honest, I kind of thought you were going to give it a Kaplan, so yeah, I'm no
It's middle.
surprise. Yeah, no surprise, but yeah,
It's funny that people wanted our live reaction to this and Conspiracy when Conspiracy is such a better episode.
yes,
And I think that's what's funny too about this episode is that coming off of Conspiracy, it's like this big world-ending thing.
mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh yeah, Captain Picard he's on this secret mission. Then he comes back from and he's like, okay, we have to do all this. And it's like they don't even like remember that happened because now it's
Nope.
like, oh, we have to go to the neutral zone. Like that just happened like last week. Like Starfleet was overrun by aliens.
Not anymore.
Like, nah. But now they want us to go to neutral zones. Like, wouldn't you be like, I don't that doesn't seem right. Like it's like they just immediately go back to trusting Starfleet, like immediately.
Yeah,
It's probably been like what, a couple weeks, maybe a month.
yeah, it hasn't been long. Yeah, it hasn't been long.
I'm like, well, good thing we got rid of those bugs, man. That could have been bad. Then the commander calls and he's like, all right, I want everybody to go into the neutral zone. They're like, you got it, sir. Yeah,
That's why.
it's weird. It's weird timing.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I'm pretty sure every single person is in agreement with you. I don't think anybody's like, oh man, I love this episode.
The season one finale, people don't even watch season one, so
No.
the finale, like, who cares?
Honestly, the thing I think is true, and you likely agree, is like the season finale is very fitting for season one. It's like, yes, it is an episode. Yes, things happen in it. Yes, they have some
Yep.
interesting concepts, but
Oh yeah, there's an intro, there's a
that's it.
middle, and there's an end, just
Right?
like every other episode. I think
Yeah.
that's why Conspiracy stands out so much
Oh,
in season
yeah,
one because it's just so drastically different.
it is.
It's probably the only episode I would go back and watch in season one.
Yeah. Well, that is what Caleb thought of the episode in general. Hard to not agree. But before we move on to our review of the entire episode, first we want to do right off the bat. Whoa! Thank Ed Mark Starr for his Patreon support. We appreciate him keeping our ship afloat and being our chief engineer and corralling all of the unfrozen cryogenic people into the right parts of the ship.
He's the engineer that's kept our cryo chambers going all
That's
this time.
all of them. That's right.
He's over 300 years old.
But we also had 2 new subscribers to the channel. Our latest subscriber is Daryl Townsend.
Hmm.
And then our second latest subscriber is Harry Pothead.
Harry Pothead. Nice.
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 For subscribing, Warrior.
Kapla.
And because Ed Mark Starr is a Patreon supporter, he gets the privilege of having his comment read during the podcast. So he says on our first time watching conspiracy reaction, which has been sadly edited to the fullest degree because YouTube hated my video. So if you caught the full 30 minutes when it first was out for the first 3 days,
Yeah.
excellent.
Congratulations.
If you didn't, enjoy the 2 minutes of reaction that are now on the channel. But here's what he said before it got chopped up so bad. It's not unusual for people in television production to want to create a groundbreaking episode of a show, something that surprises and delights fans for years. Conspiracy is the type of story that could have been fleshed out into a season-long drama as the entire Federation unites to deter an alien threat. How do you say no to making an over-the-top episode when everyone involved probably had fun making conspiracy? Like my dad used to say, after you show an enemy capable of taking over the world, do you defeat them with a gunshot? What happens next week? Does the Enterprise cruise along as if nothing monumental has happened?
Yes.
The ending of Conspiracy suggests more parasite shenanigans to come in future episodes. Did the parasites run into a Borg cube and get the story arc kicked out of them?
Yes.
Then I said to him that, I completely agree in that they introduced this world-ending villain in the series, but then not have the world react to it in subsequent episodes. And then I said maybe the infected version of Remick was so arrogant that he aimed the homing beacon in the wrong direction.
Must have. Yeah, that is a good point. Like this could be a world-ending thing.
Yes.
And then next week they're just like
Yeah.
flying through space, doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very Star Trekky though, because
Oh.
like Kirk used to do the same thing. They would do this horrible thing on this planet, and they'd all get on the bridge and they'd be like, "Have you seen how pointy Spock's ears are?" And they'd all laugh and like, "Oh, oh, it's good." And it was like,
And,
"Why? What?"
and they pan out and so many people are dead. Yeah.
Like, wow, that doesn't really fit. Wow, your brother's dead.
But then Ed went on to say, here's something my friends in school used to talk about back in the day when the writers of a TV show overreach and run out of time for a proper ending. One solution is and they lived happily ever after
Yeah,
escape
right.
clause from fairy tales. Says, notice the Picard voiceover wrap up after the mother parasite was destroyed. That's an example of and they lived happily ever after.
Mhm.
That easy out from a complex enemy may be the real reason for the twist thrown in at the closing scene. The twist eliminates the grandma wrote the ending feel of the Picard voiceover conclusion to the episode.
It's a little bit funny.
It's a thing where, like, we were talking about it, he commented on it that episode had a lot of potential and a lot of really cool things could have come out of that episode, but it didn't.
Yeah. It's basically just a fun one-off, but it's like not supposed to be. Like it shouldn't have been. It's literally like if like Thanos like snaps at the end of like Infinity War, and then like that's it. Like nothing else happens after that.
Yeah. So those were our subscribers and supporters and comments on the channel. And if you commented on the channel and you'd like to hear it read, make sure you find our Hailing Frequencies Open series, which usually comes out the day after the podcast here. Caleb and I go through the comments and react to them on that series.
Yeah.
We look forward to it and we appreciate you all for doing it. And we thank Ed Markstar once again for his comment and his support. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. So I thought the satellite capsule design was kind of interesting when they showed it. Kind of liked it a little bit.
I was very confused at first because they showed the satellite and they're like, what should we do about it? It's from Earth. And they're like, nah, who cares?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yes.
And Ricker's like, yeah, it's just space junk. Just leave it out here. Like, who cares? Who gives a crap about it? Just like, is that Federation? Is that Federation protocol to just
No.
you find debris from Earth and you're just like, yeah, just let it float.
No, in fact, I read it later in the thing. I wasn't going to include it in trivia. They literally talk about how Riker's reaction and Picard's reaction to this situation is like contradictory to the Federation and also like their general character ideals. Aren't you all about exploring
No.
and like investigating things? Like, isn't this the point of why you're in space? And then even
Mm,
Data makes the point like, but don't we have time to do that?
mm-mm. Yeah, it's very weird. I thought too at first that it was just like a satellite too. So even more so, like it's just a small satellite. Just bring it into the docking bay, like just to get rid
Right.
of it, like not have it be out in space. But then they beam to it and it's like a full like ship thing. You're like, okay. But just that reaction of just like, yeah, just leave it. Nobody will see it. We barely saw it. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty dumb. I don't disagree.
There's a lot of really dumb things in this episode that happen
Yes.
like right off the bat.
Yes. Pretty much
Uh,
consistently through the entire episode, but yeah.
yeah, but like like setting it up like right off the bat, it's there's a lot of stuff like you'll when Picard comes back on board
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, all right, emergency meeting, and then they like go to the meeting and he's like, okay, any questions? And everyone's like,
No.
no, mm-mm, mm-mm,
No.
nope, nothing happened while you were
No.
gone. Nothing. And then
Yeah.
Beverly calls him. She's like, so what do you want me to do with these frozen people? And he's like, frozen people. What?
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on the ship. Like what's I don't understand. It's just like right off the bat. Like that's the type of stuff that like already makes me like, this is gonna be
Yeah.
this
This
is
is
gonna
gonna
be
be
a
great.
long 40 minutes.
But we did get Worf and Data's first away mission. That
It
was
was cool.
that
Yeah,
was
they're
nice.
yeah. Worf and Data on a derelict ship finding cryo tubes. I mean, that's what more
Yeah.
could you want?
Did you at least enjoy the paneling gadget stuff like on the ship when they first beam in?
Yes. I did. I enjoyed the whole ship. I enjoy the door
Yes.
scene. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that he walks up to it and he like waves his hands to either sides of the door. And I was like, does that indicate that the sliding doors, like in general, like sometimes need that like extra little like wave maneuver that like everybody does when sliding doors don't open? I don't know. It was really funny. But the thing that
Yeah, it
really,
must be jammed.
yeah, the thing
But
that really
also
made,
it's a derelict ship. Like maybe don't blast open doors
yes,
where like that you're in this compartment that has minimal oxygen. Maybe don't like cut through a bulkhead, but that's just me. I mean, you
yeah.
do you do what you want.
Well, that was what was really funny was Worf was like, I don't know, it must be sealed. And then Data just walks over and opens it with the handle. And I was like, so Worf doesn't understand how door handles work? Like,
No, we don't use door handles anymore. Well,
that's funny. But then we see a woman.
I like the skeletons.
The skeletons were good. Yep.
I like that. That was cool.
Did you at any point prior to them being like them talking, did you think that they were like more con people?
I did, yeah, I did originally think like they were gonna be like con people. when they first were showing the cryotubes.
Okay, yeah.
But I forgot that we did that twice, and now we're done with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I did absolutely think that.
The other great thing was I like the fact that they brought back the Romulans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not so much like what you were saying that like, oh, it's time to have another, villain fill in the gap of the Klingons, which is true. I don't disagree with that. I just like the fact that they brought back a villain from the original series that seemed interesting and seemed like an actual threat. Because, like you said in the movies, they just introduce them as like people, like ambassadors or people who are just also there, but they're not violent and they're not like evil or anything. They're just in the room too.
It's like what they were. They were at first. It was like this big thing, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, no, they're on the committee. It's that big thing like when they see Romulans for the first time, they're like, oh my God, they look like Spock.
Yes.
And then they do like nothing with them.
No.
And it's like, okay, why do they look like Vulcans? Why,
Right.
all these questions. And now in this episode here, Beverly like fills in all of the gaps from like TOS, like within
Yeah.
like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, they were part of Vulcans. They branched off. They went to different directions. They evolved differently. I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of information on the Romulans that we've never
I
ever heard
never
before.
never discussed. Yeah. But yeah, we get to that part where like Beverly is talking about the frozen people, and he's like, I don't know anything about this. And then he says this kind of really dumb thing to Data where he's like, so like, why did you bring them aboard? And Data's like, because they're people. And he's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but they
know.
were dead. He's like, so who cares? Like, what more could have happened to them? And Data's like, yeah, I guess that's a true point.
But
But
they're
yeah,
alive in Medbay right now.
right.
So we saved them? Like,
Isn't this the
also
point?
I didn't know you were gonna come back on board and immediately take us into the
Right.
neutral zone. Like
Yeah, it was pretty. I don't know. I didn't find it funny.
there's a lot of really stupid stuff about the frozen people in Picard.
Yes.
Yeah,
This little stretch when he like basically him being made aware to the commercial break is some of the dumbest stuff that they've written so far because he doesn't know anything about it, which that doesn't make any sense. She wants him to immediately give her direction, but he doesn't know anything about it, and she's mad at him. And it's like, okay, but you're learning that he doesn't know anything about it, so give him a break because he's now just learning about it.
and also everybody knows that he's been off the ship for like 3 days, right?
Right.
Like we all know this.
He then goes in, he says his dumb line about them, like, what was the point of bringing them aboard? Then Beverly says that people were so, like, why the cryogenics thing happened was people were so terrified of dying that they would do anything. And I was like, so in the future, nobody's ever terrified of dying again? Like,
Nope. Mm-mm. No,
what?
we've moved past it. We accept it. We enjoy it now. No, we haven't seen like old admirals like want to be young again, and
No, because he's not terrified of dying.
no,
He
no,
just wants.
he's afraid of moving on from being a Starfleet commander, and that's what
That's
it is.
right.
Idiot.
And then there's this scene where Picard, I think he wants Data to come to the med bay, and he's like, Lieutenant
Yeah.
Data, come to the med bay. And they cut to Data up on the bridge, and he turns out of his chair, and he looks at Riker, and he gives like Riker and him have this exchange of like, he Picard found out, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Why did you let him find out on his own? Again, I don't understand. You just had a board meeting with all essential staff. Like, hey,
Uh,
also, Captain, while you were gone, we found this derelict
yes,
ship. We found these people in it. We brought them on board because we didn't know what to do with them. So, hey, here's an idea too. Maybe until we figure out this whole Romulan thing, let's just keep them asleep. They've been asleep for 300 years.
yeah,
Let's just wake them up after this is over.
yeah. That sounds like a great
No,
idea.
no. We have to wake up all three of them right now. Right now.
Right now,
This exact minute and wake all three of them up. and like tell them the whole thing, all three of them right now. Tell them the whole thing. Have an alien be there in front of them. That won't shock them. Nothing about it.
Right. That was my
Like,
point.
what are we doing? Are we idiots? This is the type of stuff that's like it's a storyline and moves
Yes.
the story forward, but it just shows that like I don't want to see the crew be idiots.
Right. Right.
You're
Exactly.
supposed to be like advanced humans. We're supposed to be super smart, super intelligent with stuff,
Yeah. Like,
and they
but
make
yeah. Like,
the dumbest decisions just to move the plot of the story.
yeah.
And it's like,
And,
no,
and
I don't.
and that was exactly how I felt too. He was like, "Well, let's have Worf come down here because, security risk," which, okay, whatever.
Mhm.
And then it's like, "Okay, we're gonna wake her up." And it's like, "But we'll make sure an android and a Klingon are present. This is a great idea. Definitely not going to be a problem." And it's not like they didn't know they weren't people from the past. Like, one, they were
No,
in cryostasis, and two, they had all of these apparent diseases that are just things of the past. Like, the future is can bring people back. They can bring people back from the dead, and
yeah,
all of these huge terminal illnesses that we face in
not
our current day. It's like,
not Tasha. Can't bring Tasha
no,
back.
no, 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 no.
No, but this woman who had like her heart exploded. Oh yeah, she's fine.
And then it's really funny. It literally plays like dopey 60s music when she looks at Worf and she's like, "Oh," and then passes out. And it's like, "Wah, bop, 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 boop, beep, whap." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Right. And then
Yeah, it's really
Picard's like,
stupid.
"Welcome to the 24th century." And I was just like, don't do this. Don't do this.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really stupid.
It's really bad.
It's really stupid. Not one person in that room
No.
with all these diplomas thought like, hey, these people are 300 years old. Like, it's gonna be pretty shocking for them.
And I semi apologize to everyone who's going to keep listening to the review from this point forward. I am not going to get off the soapbox that they mishandle the people for the rest of the episode.
Oh, so badly. Yeah.
I'm going to consistently keep talking about it.
Yeah, I really kind of hate what they do with everybody.
Yeah. So we come back from the commercial break with her passing out, and they're like, "Oh, here's what they all did." And it's like the one
Hmm.
guy is like a business financier, the other guy some sort of singer, and then Data's like, "Oh, the lady is a homemaker." He's
Yeah, she
like,
was in
"So
construction.
she must be in construction." I get it. I get it. It's a funny joke in a sense, but the role
Hmm.
of being a homemaker is apparently not a thing anymore in the future. Like,
No.
I don't know. You do understand that there are people who do like doing that. It's not a gender sexist thing. It's like
Hmm.
it's people do like that. Uh
No, in the future, you definitely wouldn't have like a wife or a husband that like have a job in Starfleet or something, and then like the other one stays home and takes care of like the kids.
right.
You definitely wouldn't have that. No, everybody goes to Starfleet.
Everybody wants to be waiters and whatever.
Hmm.
It's like I
That
get what
makes
they were
that,
trying to do. They were trying to take back then in the 80s, they used to make fun of women for primarily for being home and like, oh, she doesn't do anything. She just is home taking care of the family and the house and all this stuff. And so it's like now in the future, the role of a homemaker is non-existent. We don't know what that is, and women can do anything that they want ever. And it's like, great, I get what you're trying to do, but
yeah,
by making it sound like homemakers are like a bizarre concept, it's like you're just excluding a whole bunch of people, men and women, that like doing that.
yeah, yeah. It's dumb.
The only thing I did kind of like was the line that Picard said when they were talking about the singer guy, and they were like, "Oh, he used chemicals, like his body was like riddled from chemical damage."
Yeah, which means he drank himself into like liver failure, essentially.
Yeah, and I think obviously took like drugs and stuff.
Yeah,
But I liked what Picard said. I liked that Picard said, sounds like somebody who didn't enjoy life. So why would he freeze himself to like experience it all over again, kind of a thing. I thought that
yeah.
was I thought that was an interesting line.
I like that. I The thing that I didn't like about it is that we've seen before like Beverly's stance on drug abuse,
Yes.
and she doesn't really do anything about it. She basically just like, you're medically like fine. And
Hmm.
he's like, oh, it ain't about being medically fine. It's about having the thrill of drinking and doing drugs.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, no. And that's the whole scene.
Yes.
But it's like, so here he is, he's perfectly like healed. His body's like perfect again.
Right.
And like all he wants to do is like take pills to go to sleep and wake up and do drugs
Right.
and
Just to do
drink.
it.
And you're
Just
just
to
like,
do them. Yeah.
okay. And that's an interesting concept.
It is an interesting concept. Right.
That's a
Yeah.
more interesting concept than the forced, like, don't do drugs, Wesley.
Oh, yeah. Like, I feel like that could have been much more explained as to, like, well, drinking, like, to a point of killing yourself and taking drugs is like that has good commentary there of,
Hmm.
well, this guy's like you're saying, he's totally healthy, but yet he wants all of this stuff just to do it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
let's explore that. Let's talk about that. But nope.
It's also one of those things too where it's like, we don't even have that stuff. Like we don't
Yeah.
have uppers and downers in this like timeline. Like we don't have those. Like we don't use them for anything. It's like, what are you talking about?
Well, maybe they do, but like Picard says later in the episode, that people just have self-control.
Mhm. I like that line. That was pretty good. He's like, hey, the intercom is for like, critical people. And he's like, well, then why is there no like lockbox on it? And he's like, because people who aren't in that role wouldn't use it. It's just like, that. Now that's a funny concept. Nobody who's not authorized wouldn't use the communication box. What are you,
No, of
crazy?
course not.
Well, why? Why wouldn't they? Because they wouldn't.
It just feels in poor taste to not explain any of the future to the people. They literally wake up and they ask all these questions, and they're all just like, ugh, oh my God, ugh. He's asking
That's gonna
about,
be a touchy subject. Well, I don't know. We'll see if the captain wants to talk to you later at some point.
it's like,
It's
oh,
like,
he's
why?
talking about banks and stock markets. And it's like, and it's like this lady's asking about her family, and this guy's asking about sports. And they're just like, oh my God, we can't tell them anything at all. Like you
No.
can't literally say just a couple lines like, yeah, banks don't exist anymore. That guy would have been like, what? What do you mean? Like, there are no banks. No banks. There is no
Yeah,
stock market.
I don't get it. I get that there's a thing going on the ship that's important,
Right.
but like, don't wake these people up if you're not gonna like explain to them what's
Anything
going
to
on.
them. Yeah.
You wake them up, you tell them, oh, it's 300 years later, we're in space, and you're just like, all right, well, just hang out in here. We'll talk to you at some point.
Right. And then on top of it, they set up early in the conference room that they have like 19 hours until they get to the neutral zone.
Yeah, they're
And then
too
they
busy.
show scenes where they're going and talking to these people, but they don't tell them anything. You just get to hear them be stupid. And it's like, oh God, it's
Hmm.
so funny that they're so
Isn't that
stupid.
funny? They're from the past. They're so dumb.
It's like,
Isn't
oh, okay.
isn't that hilarious?
I like that Troy serves a purpose in the episode. That was
Yeah,
nice.
finally does something, yeah. But again, though, she doesn't really do her job.
Not a ton, no.
Picard says, "Get those people under control." And she says, "You got it, sir." And then she just talks to the woman, and then the other guy breaks out and goes to the bridge on his
Yes.
own. So like she went into the room and just talked to like her, and now they're like separated somehow. It's like, what is going on? And the
I
other guys, I like the other guy. He's like, hey man, like we're from the past. We don't really understand what's going on. Like, let
yeah,
them handle it. And he's like, I'm not gonna stand around here and let these future people run my life.
he's like, I could have enough money to buy this thing. And it's like, I don't, why doesn't
No,
anybody just explain to him that, like, this isn't what you think it is? But
I don't know.
we
I don't know.
kind of get a small explanation of the replicator.
I like seeing the replicator. Yeah, that was cool.
I thought it was funny that Data says that in our timeline that apparently television as an
Gone.
entertainment form is going to end in 15 years.
Yep, it's totally gone.
And I thought that seems possible. I mean, like cable, basically, not us watching television screens, just cable in general.
That's the thing. That's super funny because like in the 80s too, like that was all entertainment. It was like reading the newspaper and the television, like
Yes.
watching stuff on your phone or like a tablet, like that didn't exist. But it's like now that's
Yeah.
how everything is it's like that. So I don't get it. But just to say like, oh yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, we don't watch TV anymore.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, just to emphasize again that it was very strange to me that they weren't really accommodating to the people like at
It's
all.
really bad. Yeah, I don't understand like why they would even wake them up to do nothing with them.
Yeah. Well, this is the halfway point, so go down to the comment section and write, why wake them up? I liked that Picard was offended that the Enterprise was compared to a cruise ship. That was funny.
That was funny, yeah.
It was like, he's like, Data, explain, what is a QE2? And he's like, and then Data's like searching and he's like, oh, it's a ship that mainly sails in the North Atlantic. And he was just like, a cruise ship?
Yeah, that was funny.
We kind of touched on it. I like the fact that like self-control stops people from using parts of the ship because they're mature, critical thinking adults. But at the same time, I'm like, but there's no security measures at all, though.
Mm-mm.
Like, how many times have you had aliens and bad people like board the ship? It's like maybe at least something.
Yeah, it's just stupid that there would be no.
Yeah,
The other thing too is with like if you tell the turbo lift to go to the bridge, it should be voice activated for bridge staff only. It shouldn't just be
absolutely.
like anybody can
Yes.
just say bridge. Where would the captain be? Hmm. Because in our time period, we don't use the word bridge for like where the captain of a vessel is. It's not. No.
I thought it was kind of foolish that Picard came all the way down to their room just to say, like, don't touch that thing, and then was going to leave. And then they're like, wait a minute, let's talk to you more. It made me laugh. It's like,
Well, he got down there pretty quick too,
he did get
because he was still talking when he showed up. And then the reverse of that is when the guy goes to the bridge. It's a full like 5-10 minutes
Oh, yeah.
of him getting up there.
Yeah. Well, he gets lost. Yet again, why not just explain to them the absolute basics of the future, or at least what things in the past led to the future? It just, yeah. I thought Troy being asked to the people was kind of like okay, finally, like, why didn't you put the counselor on this like immediately?
No.
Like, what else is she doing on the ship? And it just felt weird that it's like suddenly these people are from the past, but yet they treat them as if they're just people that should know everything.
Yeah. They treat them as though they should learn 300 years worth of history like overnight.
Like
And
overnight,
just
yeah.
be like, all right, so this is so like you're fine with this now? Like, because even at the end of the episode, they're like, so what are we gonna do if we go to Earth?
Right, right,
Like, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna blend into society? Like, what's the point?
right.
They're like, oh, well, you don't really need to do anything. You don't, there's no money, there's no like
No.
food shortage. It's like, so what? Okay. Put me back in space then. I don't,
Right.
I have to contact my lawyer.
And sue
And
you.
he's like, well, your lawyer's like long dead. He's like, I know that. I'm not an idiot.
An
But my
idiot.
lawyer was a part of a big practice. It definitely lasted for 300 years. It's like, dude, like now you sound even more crazy than when you thought your
Right.
original lawyer was still alive.
It's like I don't even think in our day and age there's
God,
been
no.
law practice offices that have been around since the
No.
creation of the country.
Find me a law office that is a big partnership that's been around for longer than 50 years.
I'd give maybe 100 at most, but yeah, yeah. I did laugh out loud for the wrong reasons when the musician guy is asking Beverly where Data is, and he's like, that android fella. And she's like, who? Oh, you mean Data? And I was like, you
Yeah.
seriously don't understand android fella? How many other androids are on the ship? Like, just the word
Mm.
android would have been like, oh, okay, you're talking about Data.
Because even they know him as an android. They talk about him being an android openly
Right.
all the time.
Yeah. And then just straight up
His
that scene was what we were talking about,
oh,
to do all that and then just have some sexual harassment and see you
it's
later.
good, yeah,
That's
because
funny.
that's what we do in this time period. Love it.
Okay.
They get like our time period and like the 50s really confused, I think.
Yes.
Some,
Yes,
yeah.
they do.
Um his fascination with Data was a little like on borderline weird for me.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Like almost like like sexual. Like he's like, "Hey, won't you come back to my room, android man? We can do something," And I was like, "Not
Yeah, whatever he said, what was it, pot
weird."
waffles or something? And Data's like, what's that? He's like, Riker's like, I don't even know. I don't know what that is.
You know how those musicians were, Will, in the 50s, they were crazy. Look at this, you made me this guitar.
Honestly, wouldn't this have been a really great example to have like a modern, like 80s musician? Like, oh, and
Hmm.
this week's special guest, it's like one of the guys from the New Kids on the Block or somebody from The Cure or Phil Collins or something. And it's like, he bought into this thing and
Yep.
wow.
It's Walter Disney.
Right, right, exactly. Instead, they're just like, I don't know, it's this really weird guy.
Yeah, because that guy would totally have been popular musician in our time period. So stupid.
Apparently enough
I
to
mean,
buy.
obviously they didn't know back then, but like I guess they didn't know anything that grunge was
Yeah,
gonna
true.
get real popular
Yeah,
soon.
yeah.
This guy's like a Conway Twitty knockoff, and it's like that's not no.
That's not
Mm-mm.
I don't think those people were making hand over fist money in the mid 90s. It's like, no, no,
Was this supposed to be their like hey, what if like Elvis bought into this?
I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know. It was like what you're saying. It was like, what if Countryman and Business Wall Street Man and
Um,
little
wo-
Baker Susie all got frozen and then sent out into space.
yeah. Oh, and it wasn't even her choice, by the way. It was her husband's choice because that's
Yeah,
what they did.
yeah.
Women didn't have choices. Yeah.
That dirty pig.
He couldn't bear me not to be around and cook cupcakes.
She's like, yeah, if it was stupid and obnoxious and dumb, he definitely would have done it. It was just like, okay,
Um,
you
but at
died
least
and
they're
he paid gobs of money to have you frozen and now you're alive again 300 years in the future. It's like,
yeah.
it's not like he was like, let's just put her in a capsule and see her later. It's like you died. You died.
Also, it's funny that they were making fun of TVs, but then they show her like her family lineage and then like that horrible like 3D render.
I think you mean
And it
beautiful, but go
and
ahead.
it's like, why did we get rid of TVs if this is what we this is like she couldn't even bring up like pictures
No,
like pictures of it.
no.
So stupid. So like in the future we don't have pictures of people. We just don't like
We have the computer generate what people should
ugh,
look like.
so dumb.
I also thought it was really stupid that Data thinks it's totally fine to describe what the neutral zone is
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
singer,
just
but
give them information.
he wouldn't want to help him understand anything else.
Give him no information on the past 300 years, but he's like, "Oh yeah, the neutral zone, the Romulans. Oh yeah, they hate us." Anyway, I gotta go. It's like,
And the guy's like, "Oh, that sounds terrifying. That makes me be afraid." And Data's like, "Yeah, I don't know why you're afraid. See you later." It
it was really stupid.
was really stupid. I also thought too that when they're up on the bridge and they're all like, "Okay, two sites have been destroyed. They've been scooped out." Like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. They're like, well, it's time to call red alert. And Worf's like, I also agree because I'm a Klingon and I want battle. And Picard's like, no. Red alert, that doesn't make any sense. That's too intense of a call. And if we do that, then they're gonna be at red alert. And then he like walks down and Riker's like, well, can't we at least go to yellow alert? And he's like, that sounds like a great idea. That was just like
The whole scene is so stupid. I know.
it's like, so you wouldn't suggest that, Picard. You wouldn't make the
Mm.
decision to go to yellow, but
I get the concept of like, hey, if we show that we're hostile immediately, then they're going to be hostile. But it's like, well, yeah, you should. You're both in the neutral zone. Like you both shouldn't be there.
right.
That's
Right.
an act of war on both sides, right?
Yes. Yes. So I think by and large, the absolute dumbest thing that happens in the episode, and if you think there's something dumber, say it, but I think this is it. That guy gets to the bridge. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. He's angry again. And Picard or Riker, one of them says, like, get this man off the bridge. And the two security guards walk over to him, manhandle
Mhm.
him,
And then like let him go.
and then don't do anything.
And they're like, oh look, a Romulan ship, and they're all just staring at it.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Why aren't we taking this guy down the turbo lift?
Mm-mm. You don't need to.
Now, the Romulan vessel that they show is pretty cool. I like that
It's
a
great.
lot.
Yeah, it's great.
They'll obviously go on to explain it. It's not really a spoiler if I tell you. It's called the Diridex class Warbird,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a really iconic looking ship that they will continue to use.
Why do all alien in Star Trek all have bird themed ships? Why are they all bird themed?
I think it's probably from writers just using the ideas that, like, in our day and age, we name a lot of things like aviation things. I think so.
But that implies that on these alien planets they also call these things birds.
Well, they paint birds on their ship, remember? So
I know. Yeah, I know. But I'm saying why? Why do they do it?
I don't think they ever give a great reason in the TV shows. I'm sure in some book somewhere they explain it, but
I feel like the Klingons should name their ships like the Targ of Prey.
Targ of Prey, yeah.
It's like, why bird? Like
Birds are
bird
so
of prey.
awesome.
They're so cool because they fly like ships. It's like, yeah, but an alien culture would have a different flying. It's fine. You
Yeah.
don't understand space. Like this, we'll just move on.
Well, this sounds like a perfect time for trivia.
Oh, not again.
All right, now you're overacting.
We start off with, while writing the first season finale, Maurice Hurley intended for it to be the first part of a trilogy that would continue in the second season, in which the Borg would be formally introduced and an alliance would be formed between the Federation and the Romulan Empire to counter the new threat.
I'm assuming that this is what is leading into the Borg stuff.
So that
Something-
is why I said last week I'm going to talk about a conspiracy again. Originally, conspiracy was supposed to be the introduction of the Borg, but then they rewrote it a lot and made it those bugs. So it literally was supposed to be conspiracy, the season finale, and then another episode in season 2 where it was like the Borg threat. So this episode was supposed to be a continuation of last week's episode, where it's like, oh wow, the Borg are introduced, this new threat is introduced, terrifying, and then now the second episode is like something is more building, there's more anticipation. Instead,
No,
they're two separate thoughts and they don't relate to each other in any way.
cool. What if they would have just made the Borg like send those bugs to Earth to like soften them up before they got there? You know, like what if they just wrote that into the story?
Yeah, there's a lot of things they could have done.
But it takes writing and capabilities.
It does.
Now I'm with you.
Although Gene Roddenberry was careful to ensure the audience first accepted the new Star Trek show on its own grounds and merits, he felt comfortable enough by the time this episode was written to bring back the Romulans to Star Trek.
Yeah. Good call.
Yep. He was like, you know what? I want things from the original series. And they were like, Gene, but didn't you tell us not to put
You
them
already
in?"
did, but you've been doing that since the beginning, even though you said not to.
The writing of this episode was abruptly ended by the 1988 Writers Guild strike. The director for the episode, James L. Conway, remembered it was the last episode of the first season and there was a writer's strike underway. I think it was a first draft, and since there was a strike, no one could do any work on it. Gene and the producers couldn't do rewrites. So the strike provided little time and opportunity to revise the story outline, which was, as it was originally submitted, into a teleplay, and Maurice Hurley had to do an on-the-fly change in 1.5 days.
Probably made it better, honestly.
Probably.
It could have been even worse.
I'm sure the introduction of the Romulans was like his rewrites.
Yeah.
That monstrosity of a face that you didn't enjoy is the face of associate producer Peter Lortzen. And then lastly, before the remastering of the episode, because now the remastering shows something different, but in the original airing, when Deanna is showing Claire her family tree in the episode on the monitor, what it displays is a list of the first 6 actors who played Doctor Who, as well as television characters Mary Richards, Lou Grant, Kermit T. Frog, and Miss Piggy, and other names. And then
And now that our TVs can actually see letters,
correct. Now its names were replaced with next gen actors, production staffers, and staff of the CBS digital and CBS television distribution teams.
Wow. That's really funny.
Because that's where they spent their time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we come back from trivia and we get more of Worf's backstory.
Yeah, that's nice. I killed my parents. Probably wasn't these ones, though, you know?
He doesn't care.
I don't care.
Really worked out that the businessman was so good that he was left on the bridge. Otherwise, hard.
Wouldn't have had a clue. No. Mm-mm. Somebody shut that man up. Yes, but he's not wrong. Like, oh my God, dude.
I did think, though, the actors who both played the 2 Romulan commanders did a very good job. I think the Romulans are well acted in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
I did love and hate his line of him saying, "We are back." I was like, it's a little too 80s for me, where they're like, yeah.
We'll be back.
Yeah.
In case you don't understand what we're telling you, Captain, we are back. It's like, okay. Oh no. Oh no.
And I think by the time I got to this part in the episode, I kind of put together like why I was hating so much of their reaction to the frozen people was the crew just comes across as being so high and mighty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, they're so bothered that these people are from the past and don't understand anything of the future. And they just feel so pious and like so above them. And it is such a bizarre stance for the writers to make the crew be. I get like this tension building thing is happening with the Romulans and they're scared. And like Picard says, like, this is potentially dangerous. Like, I understand. I get it. But like you've said many times, why did you wake them up in the first place? Yeah. 2, like, you have people on the ship. You have like hundreds of people on the ship. You literally can't have one officer.
Don't they even have like teachers for the kids and historians? And it's just ridiculous. It's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. It's just so badly written. It serves no purpose other than like the storyline. All they had was like they were going into Romulan space, and then they see the Romulans at the end. What are we doing in the middle? There's 19 hours to fill. That's it. I mean, it's just
And it was really bizarre with the fact that at the end they're like they kind of like these people. They're all in the conference room and they're all kind of like, haha, oh yeah, you guys are gonna have a great time. And he's like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to like the future. Like, you're going to love the future, Mr. Offenhouse and whatever. And it's just like, where is this coming from?
Mhm.
Then the last thing that just made me laugh was Picard saying all of his things like, well, there's so much more for us to see and so much more for us to do, so much more things to discover, engage. And I was like, if that is not the most like, please don't cancel us, let us still be a TV show. I was like, yeah,
We, the Starfleet, have so many more fun ideas.
right. It's really lame. It wasn't the worst episode that we've watched this season by far, but it's a lame season finale, and it's just in general, like even the return of the Romulans don't really push it over the
No,
bar
no.
of being like, well, that was fun. At least we got that. It's like,
Well, because like
no,
you, like I was excited to see the Romulans again, but like I don't, it doesn't do
right.
anything for me. It's like,
No,
okay.
no. Well, that was the review of the episode. We appreciate you sticking with us, and we're sure you have your thoughts as well. So let us know what they are down in the comment section. But before we end the video, let's do the thing everyone's been waiting for. Okay, so Caleb, who gets the Erica Ortegas Award for being the most unlikable?
I'm gonna give it to Picard this week.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you don't want to, but everything he does and says is so anti what a Federation captain should be.
yeah. And it's funny that you say it too, because it wasn't until you just said that that I was thinking you're supposed to totally hate the business guy, right? He's supposed to be
Yeah,
terrible and like offending and all this stuff. But
yeah, but
he's
he doesn't know
literally
anything.
right. It's like he's that way because he explains why he's that way. He's like, this is the first time I've not known everything and not been in control, and it's driving me crazy. And Picard's like, that's the first thing you've said that made sense. And it's just like, yeah, dude, he's 300, he's like almost 400 years old. Like, what are you talking about?
Because Picard treats these people like tribbles. It's just like it's just bad. He's bad about
Yeah,
it.
so it's a great pick, and yeah, that's yeah, it's good.
That's
So
funny.
next is the Elizabeth Cutler Award for being the most forgettable in the episode.
Wesley.
Yeah, two
He
back-to-back
has,
episodes.
yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah, it's also the last episode we'll see Denise Crosby credited in the opening intro.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah. I don't know why Wesley isn't in the last couple episodes. I know sometimes kids have like schooling or they have like things called like regents, but I honestly don't know why he wasn't in it.
they can only do a certain amount of hours too, and he was in a lot of episodes early on, and I'm sure it took a lot of hours to film.
I read in trivia that he was supposed to be the one who gave the country guy the guitar, and like they
Hmm.
were supposed to have a scene where he gives him the guitar and then he talks about all this type of music and like Wesley doesn't understand it, but they didn't film it or do it, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Next is the Mugatu Award for the best alien of the episode.
Romulans.
The Romulans.
Yeah.
I like how you probably caught it too. Those the two main guys up front, and they're all just like, blah 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 blah. And then way in the back
Yeah.
were like two other people like poking buttons and doing stuff. That made me laugh.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Next is the Trip Tucker Award for the MVP of the episode.
Data.
Data.
He saved 3 people.
He saves 3 people.
Says all I got.
He's also the sound of reason when the scene before the guy gets on the comms. Riker's like, we should destroy the Romulans. And Worf's like, we should destroy the Romulans. And then Data's like, well, that premise is based off of the fact that the Romulans may be hostile. And if that is true, then yes, we must destroy the Romulans.
Yes,
And
good
then,
point. Good point.
yeah. And then Jordy's like, but why would they be hostile? And then the guy talks in the comms. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great pick.
Yeah.
Next is the Spock Award for the best line of the episode.
Probably give it to Data when he was explaining to Picard like like I did what I thought was right, like saving people. I thought that's what we were doing, you know.
I know exactly what you mean. I do like that line, and it does make Picard look like an idiot, so it's a good line.
It does. I mean, they should have told him when he first got on board, but still, it's a good scene. It's just funny that he would call him down there and be like, "So why did you save these people? Like, why'd you do this?" He was like, "What are you talking about?"
Well, next is an easy one, the Shran Award for the best action sequence.
I like when you see the Romulan ship come out of cloak. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
that like,
Mm.
yeah, I like that.
That was a great pick. I agree with it. I love it too. But will it be as easy as the NX Award for some sweet ship stuff?
That is the shuttle where the frozen people were. I like
yeah.
that it still uses CD drives.
Oh, when he pokes the thing. Yeah.
He's like, it's some kind of CD data input. I was like, yes, they use CDs in space. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, nice. Nice. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the replicator or something else, but yeah, I
I
like
do
it.
like the replicator.
Well, let's go to the lowest of lows. Next is the Porthos Award for the cheesiest thing of the episode.
It's either her like passing out from seeing Worf
Okay.
or like Picard at the very end, like saying engage and like
Oh.
stay tuned for more Star Trek. It's probably the end. I'll give it to the end. Yeah.
Yeah. They're both really bad, but when you said the end where he's like, "Stay tuned for more Star Trek," I was like, "Oh, that's so much worse."
Don't change that dial. We'll be back next year.
Oh, well, now we'll go to the highest of highs. What gets the Enterprise Award for the best scene of the episode?
I'm gonna say it's Worf and Data on the derelict ship.
I like it.
mean,
I'm totally fine with it.
when they're walking through and everything's all frozen and stuff, yeah, it's cool. That's it. That's really the only cool thing in this whole episode.
Yeah. So that was the award ceremony for the episode. We're grateful for Caleb's thoughts about that. I know it's not always his favorite, but it's a fun thing to tackle, and we'll talk about it more in just a little bit. But now it's your turn to talk about the episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you want more of it? Or did you find this the neutral zone between season 1 and season 2?
Oh, not even.
Let us know
I'd rather
down below.
Next time on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Well, next week's episode will not be episode 1 of season 2. It will be, what did Caleb think of season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation? So we haven't done it in a while because typically when we were doing like the original series, we covered like 6 episodes, 8 episodes. When we did the animated series, it was like 3 episodes. So these were kind of quick. This is going to be the first time where he has 26 episodes to think about, and we're going to tackle it. We're going to make it really fun and excellent.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
And we'll get to review the entire season and just talk about it in general. So look forward to that. But then 2 weeks after that episode, we'll return with season 2. And that episode is entitled The Child. But we're not going to be covering that for about 3 weeks. But as always, if you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Share it with all your friends and family and Trek enthusiasts. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And ring that bell so you can watch the episode as soon as it comes out. And after this video ends, make sure you head on over to Caleb's channel. Caleb has a really great prop channel. Got a lot of fun things over there. Caleb, is there anything that people should know about?
I have a video out right now, a new video where I built the mouse droid from Star Wars. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Exactly.
Yeah, so make sure you go over there and watch his mouse droid video on that. Give it a like, give it a comment, Maybe even type a little suggestion on that video yourself. Say to him, hey, I like mouse droids. What about a gonk droid? You never know. Caleb might tackle anything that you ask him to do.
Never a gonk.
So give him a subscribe. You decide. We appreciate everybody watching. We thank Ed Markstar once again for his Patreon support. If you also want a shout out and your comments read during the podcast, or get a sticker in the mail or anything else, even suggest an episode of Star Trek for Caleb and I to watch that we haven't in the past watched, make sure you head over to Patreon yourself. Find a tier that best works for you. Things like our reaction video that's been heavily edited on YouTube is now fully up there on Patreon, as well as Galaxy Quest. So that's other benefits you can get from being a Patreon supporter.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, we appreciate everybody doing all of the fun, excellent things down below. We appreciate the community that you guys are helping us build, and we look forward to tackling your comments in our Hailing Frequencies Open series. But until that time, computer, let me know what the Braves are doing, and end program. See you guys! Oh my God.
That was weird. I thought you were beaming out.